Start with breaking news. 7 News just getting our hands on a powerful response from the Denver Police Union after 4 Denver bicycle officers were hit by a car during yesterday's student march. This officer, originally in critical condition but has improved. The union saying some students in the crowd cheered and chanted, quote, "Hit him again," after Officer John Adzit was run over. The union calling the students' actions reprehensible and one of the most disturbing acts the union has ever heard. They are also calling the assembly unlawful, saying the students broke DPS rules and city and state traffic laws. 3 officers were treated and released. Officer Adzit remains in the hospital.
Now that announcement coming out after we watched hundreds of students marching through the streets of Denver again, blocking traffic, jamming police resources, and we're hearing there's talk of even more walkouts.
Tonight, 7 News is looking into how Denver public schools and police will handle another day of marches tomorrow. We have team coverage of today's Ferguson protests. 7 News reporter Jennifer Kovaleski following the protests at George Washington High School.
And we start right now with Russell Haythorne. He's at Montbello High School. And Russell, those students marched for miles.
And these students left from Montbello High here and marched all the way over to Peoria and then marched to 2 other schools before eventually ending up all the way out east past Pena Boulevard. It was a largely peaceful march, but the chanting these students chose to use was a bit vulgar. A crowd of hundreds of Montbello students hit the streets in northeast Denver today.
This affects the whole community.
The students blocked traffic on Peoria and multiple side streets while marching.
Everybody's going to keep protesting until everybody gets justice.
The crowd was flanked by police on all sides as it weaved from street to street and neighborhood to neighborhood. Most of the profanity-laced chants by these students would not be suitable for air.
Hands up, don't shoot!
With the exception of the hands up, don't shoot expression, popularized by Ferguson protesters nationwide.
Police shot him because he was black or something like that.
They're just using their power. They're using their authority over us when they're supposed to do good.
While some of the students couldn't articulate why they were protesting, others were clearly convicted.
There's black men killing each other every day. And I know we're protesting about Ferguson right now, but there's black people killing each other every day, so we need to stop that.
And I just got a message from a student group here at Montbello. They say they're embarrassed by the ignorance displayed at today's protest, so they're planning another protest for tomorrow. It's a stay-in-school blackout. They're encouraging all students to wear all black and stay in class all day in silent protest to police brutality. That's the latest from the Montbello neighborhood. I'm Russell Haythorne live. Now I'll toss it to my colleague Jennifer Kovaleski, who is following another march down near George Washington High School today. Jennifer?
Russell, it's quiet here right now, but just a few hours ago, we saw by far the largest and loudest protest from George Washington High School. The students walked out, I would say about 100 of them from George Washington High School here. They turned around the corner and took over South Monaco Parkway. You can hear the students yelling a chant that's become a rallying cry since the shooting in Ferguson, Missouri. Protesters holding up signs. They blocked off traffic for almost 2 hours. Denver police officers doing their best to keep the kids safe while they stopped in the middle of almost every intersection. George Washington students walked nearly 5 miles all the way to Thomas Jefferson High School, where they wanted more kids to join their protest. But school administrators and DPD officers put an end to that. Thomas Jefferson was put on lockdown while officers kept protesters in this parking lot away from the school. About 30 minutes later, you can see 2 RTD buses pull up and start loading students onto the bus.
A lot of kids are trying to get out of class, but I think a lot of kids do have the heart for the actual protest and the problem.
I'm told the students were brought back here to George Washington after being loaded onto those buses. We did also see some students walking home. I know we just heard Russell say that he's hearing of planned protests tomorrow. We didn't hear any of that kind of talk from students at George Washington, but that's not to say it won't happen. Reporting live in Denver tonight, Jennifer Kovaleski, 7 News.
Thanks, Jen and Russell. And 7 News asking officials about all these protests. We wanted to know if Denver public schools would try to curtail student protests. Well, Lance Hernandez talking to the superintendent, the police chief, and East High students. And Lance's superintendent pretty reserved in his response.
He certainly was, Ann. All he would say is that they want to have a dialogue, a continuing dialogue with students so that the students can share their opinions. Now, he said protests aren't an everyday occurrence, but he said occasionally students will feel very passionately about something, and when they do, he wants them to learn something from it and be safe.
I believe that we found passion in that protest.
East High students say they took to the streets yesterday to voice their opinion about what happened in Ferguson, Missouri.
People of our generation don't really have a voice.
The superintendent called the protest a form of peaceful dialogue. We asked him about students from other schools who were throwing eggs during protests today.
All of us agree, and that's part of the dialogue today, about the importance of respectful, thoughtful dialogue.
We also asked if DPS should curtail the student walkouts.
There are going to be times where our students feel extraordinarily strongly about something.
Boasberg says when they do, he wants them to be safe. And the students say if they want to leave class, the teachers can't stop them.
Well, first and foremost, I think DPS is responsible for my education, not my free will.
Police Chief Robert White says police are sworn to protect the public, even protesters who might be throwing eggs.
I think I'm more focused on what's the mission, what's the purpose, what's the outcome, and not let the few that will attempt to be disruptive, not let that outweigh the importance of the message.
And some good news this afternoon from Denver Health Medical Center. Councilman Albus Brooks tweeting that reconciliation is happening at Denver Health. He said that the six female students who led the protest from East High School yesterday delivered flowers to Officer Adsit and to his family today. Reporting live at East High School, Lance Hernandez, 7 News.
Now back to the Denver police officer dragged by a car during yesterday's student protest. Well, he will need more surgery. You heard Lance talking about Officer John Adsit there. Well, he had a good night, and critical issues have been addressed. He underwent about 5 hours of surgery yesterday, and police believe the crash was an accident caused by a medical condition. And to recap, hundreds of students from 4 Denver schools walked out in protest today. The demonstrations involved students from Abraham Lincoln and George Washington High Schools, the Noel Community Arts School in Montbello, and younger students from Bruce Randolph Middle School. Police, and in some cases paramedics, escorted the students, blocking traffic as the protests crossed intersections and students walked in the roadway.